Coal, a fossil fuel that is the most important energy source for electricity generation, but also the most polluting energy source due to its high proportion of carbon. Indonesia started off as a small player within the global coal industry, but soon grew into one of the world's leading consumers and producers of this harmful source of energy. How did this happen? Indonesia is a country rich in coal with over 100 billion tons of coal and over 20 billion tons of reserves. The potential for coal mining is huge, and at current rates, it can be mined for another 59 years. Indonesia owns roughly 2.2% of total global coal reserves, with its reserves being dominated by low and medium quality coal, where it is mostly located in eastern Kalimantan and southern Sumatra Island. So we've established that Indonesia has a lot of coal, but what do we use it for? In Indonesia, 49% of power electricity is obtained from the use of coal. We also export 80% of our coal to countries like China, Japan, and India, the top 3 importers of coal worldwide. In 2019 alone, Indonesia produced about 660 million tons of coal. Now enough about the numbers. Let's talk about the effects of the Indonesian coal industry. Now let's talk about the good effects of the coal industry here in Indonesia. Well, without considering the external costs of a coal power plant, coal is actually a cheap source of energy. Cheap production costs and the abundant supply of the commodity are 2 main reasons why Indonesia promotes the use of coal as its energy source. How does it benefit the economy? Well, in 2020, the coal industry provided Indonesia with 26 trillion rupiah in non-tax revenue. Money is good, so the Indonesian government continuously targets to increase coal production annually. They actually managed to exceed the target production on a regular basis since 2016, only struggling to meet the target by a bare minimum in 2020 due to the global pandemic. Another aspect would be the fact that Indonesia is in a trade deficit, and so the government will look to the export of coal to balance out the trade deficit as it finds new ways to reduce the imports of consumer goods. Remember that East Kalimantan is the second province to produce the most coal here in Indonesia? Well, this means that the coal sector contributed up to 35% of provincial GDP in 2017 for East Kalimantan. Coal plants are huge and will most likely provide a lot of work opportunities for the surrounding locals. It provides income for the locals and an opportunity to live a better life, thus further benefiting the local economy in a way. Emphasis on in a way. Now on to the bad. Since 2000, the rapid rise in coal mining and burning has had devastating impacts on the local environment and public health. Coal mining has very strong negative impacts on agriculture, fisheries, and other sectors. As seen in East Kalimantan, coal mining has entailed massive destruction of farmland, wetlands, streams, and forested lands. Farmland is affected by water pollution as water discharged from mines is contaminated with heavy metals, salts and solids, and high levels of acidity, harming fisheries and people who depend on the local body of water in the process. In addition, air pollution is caused by the burning of coal, which releases high levels of carbon dioxide into the air, and the loading and transport that spread toxic coal dust into the surrounding area. Although coal plants come with the opportunity to bring wealth to an area, the plant also comes with a trail of environmental destruction that could otherwise have a more negative impact on the local economy than it actually does any good.
Next is the ugly. The coal industry has more direct benefits for many in the political class since Indonesian politicians and well-known elites have significant stakes in coal. In September 2020, Parliament was swift to enact changes in laws and regulations that incentivizes the coal industry's top players. The new law removes a limit on the size of mining operations and allows automatic permit extensions up to 20 years. The government regulation number 75 in 2011 also gave licensing authority from the central government to the local government, making it easier to license new mines. These laws and regulations facilitate business development while ignoring environmental and social concerns. Governments are essentially supporting the coal industry and sheltering it from domestic competition. Coal is very cheap, and thus, renewable energy will definitely struggle to compete, not especially with the government supporting the use of it. Another ugly about it all is corruption. Indonesia is a country famous for its corruption scandals, and one such case took place in 2018 with the arrest of the PLN director over corruption allegations connected to coal-fired power plants. Corruption is said to be a key reason why mining wealth is not benefited by local communities, as we see that the areas where coal plants are made are still among the poorest and most underdeveloped parts of Indonesia. The rich get richer and the poor are left with health complications, a toxic environment, and an abysmal return on investment on what they've given to the higher powers. A global demand for coal is expected to be in decline sometime in the near decade. A short-lived rebound is expected in 2021, but with no further increase to 2025, even as economics recover from the pandemic. At the moment, coal prices are high as exports are recovering and the world is currently facing supply difficulties. With global coal prices touching record highs, the production of coal in Indonesia will most likely increase, which will further entrench Indonesia's dependence on the commodity and will put the country's clean energy hopes on hold. On the other hand, there have been some plans, promises, and agreements made that could signal Indonesia's use of cleaner energy. First, Indonesia plans to stop building new coal-fired plants after 2023. This is done in order to meet its carbon-neutral goals. The government expects to generate 23% of the country's energy from new and renewable sources by 2025, and this is seen as the first step towards decarbonizing the country's economy, which is still heavily reliant on dirty coal. Second would be Indonesia's mining giants racing to adapt coal gasification into their operations. Coal gasification involves chemically converting coal into synthesis gas with varying end products such as DME, hydrogen, and methanol. DME can be used as a replacement to LPG and diesel fuel. It is an environmentally friendly fuel due to its lower levels of CO2 and nitrogen oxides generated when burned in power plants. Finally, Indonesia will impose a carbon tax in April 2022. This tax will be imposed on coal-fired power stations to reduce national greenhouse gas emissions. The carbon tax is an attempt made by the government to make the country more attractive for investments. Under the law, every kilogram of carbon equivalent emissions that exceed a certain cap will be subjected to the carbon tax. As the need to shift to green energy is becoming more and more apparent, it doesn't make much sense for the government to support this industry in such a way, if not for the many personal benefits that some who are in power are benefiting off from. If we look on a global scale, most countries are actually trying to reduce their reliance on coal usage. More needs to be done by the Indonesian government to utilize cleaner means of energy for the nation to play its essential role in preventing further chaos on this already dying planet.